Hello, everyone. We are here with the voice behind Rethink 2903, and we decided to do something different this time. I'm going to ask him some questions, and I want to hear his answers.
Perfect. Let's go.
Okay, so be honest with me. House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones? The TV show in general.
As much as I like Game of Thrones, or excuse me, as much as I like House of the Dragon, right? It's a great show and everything, but it will never touch Game of Thrones, especially seasons 1 through 4. Um, they say arguably season 4 of Game of Thrones was like the climax of the series, even to this day. Season 4, really 1 through 4. So I still really, really like and love House of the Dragon, but Game of Thrones takes the cake.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the dragons? Just the
Well,
dragons, not the TV show.
Game of Thrones obviously has way more dragons, but the situations are different. You've got the 3 dragons in Game of Thrones, but they weren't raised the same way that a lot of the dragons were in House of the Dragon, right? So Drogon, Daenerys' big dragon, it grew way faster than what it would have had it been during the House of the Dragon era, where it's in a dragon pit and it's, maintenance and taken care of, right? So it grew faster. And the one cool thing about that, a lot of people have debated this, but it really takes and shows you the difference between a dragon that's, kind of raised or grown up as a wild dragon versus the captives. They just don't grow near as fast. And the other thing, when you look at Drogon overall, he was a beast of a dragon and one of the best dragons, even, to this day. However, during the Dance of the Dragons, Drogon probably doesn't even crack the top 5, honestly.
Wow.
Now, he was young, he was only 7 years old, but he grew fast. But you put Drogon against Vhagar or Caraxes, Vermithor, Silverwing, Dreamfire, and it's like a professional athlete playing a game of basketball versus a middle school kid.
Okay. And if we were talking about Vhagar against Caraxes, which one
Well,
would win?
we know, right? Anybody who's read Fire and Blood knows that that is the Battle of the God's Eye, where Aemond, Daemon, Caraxes, Vhagar do a battle to the death. And we know that
So the
Caraxes,
book says that.
yeah, yep. So in the book Fire and Blood, of course, Vhagar and Caraxes meet each other in Harrenhal over the God's Eye. They both, Caraxes grabs Vhagar, right? They both get majorly damaged, fall to the ground, right? Vhagar obviously never recovers and is dead. Caraxes goes to the shore where he dies as well. So it hopefully, which again the TV show could change it, but
So that was going to be my question. Do you think the TV show will do as the book says, or do you think they're going to? Because from what I can understand, there are a lot of things they did not follow to the T,
oh, many things.
right?
It at this point for me, the way that I've kind of kept my sanity is that I've accepted the fact that Fire and Blood is one story and House of the Dragon is another story, because the amount of stuff that has been changed is pretty massive. Some of it's been okay, but a lot of it is like kind of a head scratcher on why you would change it. But overall, it's just one of those things. Caraxes, Vhagar, theoretically, that should be the most epic dragon war in modern TV by far.
Wow. What about Sunfire and Moon Dancer?
Well, Sunfire is personally my favorite of the dragons. In Fire and Blood, Moondancer, or excuse me, Sunfire is repeatedly described as the most beautiful dragon across the board. There's nothing comparable to it. It has these beautiful gold, shiny scales. It's a powerful dragon. It's a fast dragon. It's personally my favorite. Right now, it's all beat up and it's decrepit, right? But it still has a major role to play, especially with Rhaenyra. However, I don't think that's even an issue. I think that Sunfire takes care of, was Sea Smoke?
Moon.
Moon Dancer, yeah. And in the book, actually, that is what happens.
Really?
Yep. So Bela, Damon's daughter, rides Moon Dancer, and it's a cool dragon, but it is smaller. And then I believe it's at Dragonstone, Sunfire kills Bela's dragon. So they do end up fighting.
So now a question. We just ended the season 3. If you analyze the book, what is something that they did not put in the TV show that you're like, gosh, dang, that would be so cool? I know that there are probably many, but like in your opinion, if you're the one making the TV show, what is one thing that you're like, oh my gosh, the book, we have that in the book and I wish they did that with the TV show too?
In my opinion, it's got to be the swapping Damon's youngest daughter, Rhaena, for the character Nettles. So in the book, Nettles is just a common girl, right? She ends up claiming sheep stealer, right? But she doesn't have Targaryen blood, so in theory, she shouldn't be able to do it. But she feeds, sheep stealer a sheep a day until she gains its trust, and then she ends up claiming it without Targaryen blood, which should not be able to happen. But in the book, Nettles plays a huge role with kind of the downfall of Rhaenyra and Daemon's relationship, right? And there's accusations that maybe there was an affair. Not to mention, right, Rhaenyra in the book is looking for Nettles because she thinks that that's who killed her son, right? And Rhaenyra is actively hunting her, and Daemon actually helps her escape. So, the arc of the whole story ultimately changed when it went back to Daemon's daughter. And then I think that made some other things change. So I would say that's, there's many things, but that's probably, in my opinion, the biggest one.
Cool. Okay. And what about Caraxes and Syrax against Vhagar? Do you think
Say that again.
they could take it?
Oh, like 2-on-1?
Yes.
So Caraxes and Syrax, who's Rhaenyra's dragon, against Vhagar. Yeah, I mean, they'd have a good chance. I mean, Caraxes ultimately dies trying, but, Caraxes deals with Vhagar. If you had Caraxes and Syrax, I think there's a pretty good chance. But there's a big but in this, though. At the end of the day, it's Vhagar, right? Vhagar's been killing and eating people for 180 years, right? Maybe not 180, right? But say 170 years. So at the end of the day, for anybody to sit here and count Vhagar out of any fight with that era of dragons, you could never do that. I think under the right circumstances, those two could win. But realistically, when you look back, at the show, especially, Vhagar is very experienced in war and battle, right? So she kills Rhaenyra's youngest son, right? From a, kind of a psyop. She just appears out of nowhere. Same thing with melees, right? There would be no question that the battle experience Vhagar has would be 100-1 compared to those two in the long scheme of things. Although Caraxes is an old dragon, does have experience. I mean, Vhagar's been around since, the conquest, right? With Aegon the Conqueror. His sister rode Vhagar for many years, and Vhagar's no stranger to violence and war.
I'm curious to think what people watching us think about this. Please let us know in the comments because, those questions about dragons get people generally very fired up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
People definitely have different opinions about stuff. So please let us know. Is there any dragon alive during the dance that beats Vhagar?
Yes, I think there's possibly 2. So exclude Caraxes for now.
Okay.
So one of the longest debates going, right? That's the one that has the most teeth would be Vhagar versus Vermithor, right? Vermithor is smaller, but
Faster.
yeah, faster, younger, right?
Yeah.
Has a lot of age and experience. And Vagar versus Vermithor, oh, that'd be a gift. If the show's going to keep changing as much stuff if they do, that would be a dream come true to see Vagar versus Vermithor. Vermithor is, of course, smaller, but Vermithor is in the same league.
Okay. What about Dreamfire and Cyrex?
Oh, Dreamfire would annihilate Cyrex.
Really?
Yeah. Dreamfire is one of the oldest dragons around. You know, Dreamfire comes from centuries before anybody from House of the Dragon is even alive. And that is one of the biggest crimes of this whole season. They didn't show Dreamfire, but for about 2 seconds. And in the book, Dreamfire is described as one of the coolest dragons. And in the book, Helena, right, who rides Dreamfire, is very, very bonded with Dreamfire. She rides the dragon all the time. She's with the dragon a lot. And in the show, she talks about a dragon a lot. And it's like, where the heck is it? And 30 seconds, 20 seconds, they show Dreamfire. So, but again, Dreamfire, if you've read the book, you know that Dreamfire still has a big role to play.
Okay. In your opinion, which dragon did this show do the best job bringing to life?
I would have to say Vagar. Vagar's a one-of-a-kind dragon. It's, probably got the most airtime, that or Caraxes. But I would personally say Vagar.
What is your top 5?
Top 5 dragons?
Yeah.
So I'd go, of course. Actually, no, I take that back. My top dragons would be Vermithor, Vagar, Caraxes, Silverwing, and then the Cannibal, which they didn't show this year.
And that's, yeah, I was going to say that. Why? Why do you think the show hasn't shown it?
So the Cannibal is a wild dragon that's never been claimed before, and it gets its name from, you guessed it, eating other dragons. So this dragon, from what the book says, is black as night, big, mean dragon. The size of the dragon's debatable, but it's definitely not a small dragon. So hopefully next year they show it, because that is one that people are just waiting for. And the producer of House of the Dragon this year teased that there were going to be some new dragons, and that wasn't one of them. So the Cannibal's going to be.
There was not?
They didn't end up showing it.
Wow.
But the Cannibal's going to be a fun one, though. And truly, without knowing everything about the Cannibal could be 2 or 3, honestly. We don't know if it's as big as Vermithor or, but. So Vermithor number 1, Vagar number 2, Caraxes number 3, Silverwing number 4, and then as far as dragons that I've seen, the next one I would have to go with would be Dreamfire.
Okay. And as far as like them being big or small compared to the book, do you think it's pretty accurate?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, Balerion, the Black Dread, right, is quite a bit bigger than Vagar, because dragons, they don't stop growing. They stop growing when they die. So there's no cap on how big a dragon can get, right? So, overall, I would have to say for all the dragons, actually, I think they did a pretty good job. Other than, I just have to be honest, Dreamfire. I had such high expectations.
Because of the book.
Yeah. And it just fell short of what I think. And I'm not the only one that shares this opinion. A lot of people were like, what is this? I mean, it's not horrible, but.
So with your channel, the comments and all of that, do you find people with the same
There were
opinion?
a lot of pissed off people about that.
Wow. Okay. Which dragon death was handled the best across all 3 seasons?
I'd have to say Vermax, when Jace got killed in the Battle of the Gullet, which is interesting because, again, in the books versus kind of what the show said, it got hit with what's called a scorpion bolt, which is a big, long torpedo shot from a ship. And, it with the help of Sheep Stealer, of course, messing everything up. But, that was probably one of the better deaths. Or, Rhaenyra's youngest son, right? He got just chomped in half by Vagar, right, at night. But I would say, yeah, I would probably say both of Rhaenyra's sons.
Okay. So if you had the chance of your life and you could ride one dragon, which one would that be?
I'd have to say Sunfire. That's my favorite
Really?
dragon. Yeah.
Why?
Well, again, I keep saying this phrase, the book, right? But the way the book describes Sunfire, right? In my mind, I built this like dragon that's like ultimately made of gold, right? And it's this shining, shimmering, splendid dragon, right? And so, if I could ride one dragon, it'd be either Sunfire or I'd have to say Silverwing would be another cool one.
Now, do you think you have that opinion because you read the book? Or even if you just watched the TV show?
Oh, because of the book.
Okay.
If you've
I
never
know
read the
it's
book,
hard for you to imagine how you would think if you did not read the book, but can you try, like, let's
yeah.
say that you
So
only watched the TV show? Because that's what happens too. There are a lot of people that have not read the book and they are obsessed with the TV show. So,
that's true. I would say that's probably 97% of people
yeah,
out there, right? So that I make a lot of videos on House of the Dragon, and the overwhelming majority of people, from what I can see in my comments across 4 social media platforms, they've never read the book, which is such a shame, right? Because when you read the book, you understand the show at such a deeper level. Not to mention, Fire and Blood is one of the most unique books I think ever written. And I say that because Fire and Blood is written as a fake history book, right? So it's a history book about a fake series of events, right? But you read it and it's like you're reading an actual history book, right? And in Fire and Blood, there's 3 different people that give their accounts of everything, and they all vary wildly. So it's like, at the end of the day, with Fire and Blood, one reason that I just loved it, you don't know who to believe, right? So it just lets your mind wander, and you kind of get to come up with your own conclusions because there's no definitive proof on this fake history.
I do have to say that I have talked to a few people. They didn't even know there was a book.
Oh, I know.
So there's that too.
That's a very common thing. A lot of people have no idea, the books behind Game of Thrones, right? The books George R.R. Martin has not finished, that hopefully he will, but, right, the
Oh,
Winds
I
of
hope so
Winter.
too.
So, yeah, when you read the books, you understand it on a much different level.
Okay. And what did you think overall about the season 3? Did that meet your expectations? Were you expecting a little bit more?
I was
Was it okay?
I was expecting a lot more. The first episode was a great episode,
That's what I heard too.
and the second to last episode with the Aegon Sunfire reunion. But the show moved at such a weird pace, and I feel like they had these almost like filler scenes that I sit back and I'm trying to understand what value these scenes provide, because a lot of these scenes, right, are one-on-one scenes, but they really don't
I felt the same way.
progress the story, right?
Yeah.
They don't progress the character's arc or their identity or their direction. So overall, I would say it was a very so-so season at best.
I know. I had the same feeling. There were some episodes that after the episode, I was like, huh?
Yeah. Episodes where, well, and think about it too. There were multiple episodes where no dragons got shown at all,
And
right?
people got mad.
Well, but see, the crazy thing is in Game of Thrones, the majority of the episodes in Game of Thrones show no dragons. But the way that they, developed everybody's arcs, you didn't need dragons to be entertained, right? And I feel like with House of the Dragon, it's almost like we got reliant or addicted upon seeing the dragons in order to classify it as a good show, right? Which really, that's not a good thing, right? You don't want to be reliant on dragons.
Okay. In your opinion, best and worst episode?
I would say, not I would say, the best episode was episode 7. That's the scene, or
Of the season 3?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. The scene at the end of episode 7 is where Aegon is in the forest. He basically thinks he's going to die, turns around, faces,
That was awesome.
and out of nowhere, Sunfire comes, right? So,
I agree with that.
yeah.
And
But
worst.
season 1, looking back at it now that I've had some time to digest all of season 3, season 1 was pretty dang good. It really was. I wish they'd have kept that vibe and that style, because season 1 is truly what everybody got addicted to and what they expected, right? And there's, of course, good moments here and there, but I just overall felt like season 3 was just boring.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I rewatched all of the seasons to be able to remember, because I forget. I think it takes so long for them to come up with a new season, especially now, 2 years. Oh my gosh, I will be watching everything again. And definitely the season 1, it gives you something that you don't feel on the other seasons.
Yeah.
And what about worst episode? Did you answer?
Oh, the worst episode, I would say, is episode 3. It is the most, and yes, there is some character development and some arcs that are being built and some narratives that are being changed. But for me, it was episode 3. It was boring. And I felt like at the end of that episode, like nothing progressed, right? So when episode 4 started, it was like what happened? There were just a bunch of conversations that just really didn't move anything forward.
So if you had to pick a season, would that be season 1?
Oh yeah, by far.
Me too.
Season 1 that's when there you had young Rhaenyra, young Alicent, Viserys was still around, right? Daemon was still the rogue prince. Season 1 is by far.
So now the question, who do you think is right? Rhaenyra or the Greens? Who do you think that should really have the throne?
Rhaenyra. Viserys said publicly, right, in front of all the High Lords, that he named Rhaenyra as his heir, right? And when Viserys is dying, he tells Alicent the prophecy of Aegon the Conqueror,
Which
right?
you completely misunderstood.
Which completely misunderstood, right? So at the same time, you look at it and you're like, well, she didn't know that, right? That was a secret. She heard Aegon. She heard his son. But at the end of the day, it should have been Rhaenyra's, right? Now,
I agree.
should have been Rhaenyra's versus Rhaenyra being qualified to do it is a different story, right? In the book, as well as the show, we see more and more and more that Rhaenyra is not qualified to run a kingdom. Her whole life.
But do you think that she was never qualified, or she just went mad?
No.
Just because of everything that she went through?
She was never qualified because she was never coached. She was never groomed or taught. She was just told, you need to go take the throne that you were promised. But it's really unfair to Rhaenyra, I've always thought, because she wasn't coached, right?
I really want to know people's opinion about that.
Yeah. And when it came to ruling, there's a lot of boring, mundane, day-to-day stuff that goes into it, right? It's not all dragon fights and wars. It's dealing with the small folk, right? It's dealing with shortages of food. It's dealing with supplies with trade routes, right? There's a lot of little things that go into it. And she was never taught. So had she been groomed properly, different story, right? But we're never going to know.
Now, why do you think that she was not groomed?
Because she was not a man.
Really?
Yes.
So do you think that her dad wanted her to be, but at the same time, he was like, I'm not going to teach her?
I think
he was kind of like trying to do.
Well, because remember in
right
season 1, Viserys, his wife in episode 1, dies giving birth to a son.
Yes.
Right? So it was no secret Viserys wanted a son. But everything that happens, his wife passes away, he moves on, gets married to Alicent, but he named Rhaenyra heir. Now, did he do it out of guilt? Did he do it because he kept his word? We'll never know. However, during this era for this this world of Westeros, women are not looked at as proper rulers. So even when Viserys named Rhaenyra, there were a lot of rebuttals about that, and there were a lot of lords that were like, "What?" Right? And a lot of people that pretended like they would support her, that when that time came, they didn't. And then there were some that truly did support her. But Rhaenyra had two uphill battles. Number one, she wasn't a man. Number two, she was not groomed or trained how to rule.
Okay. Do you think he was a good king? Her dad?
Yeah, Viserys was actually a great king.
Really? Okay. What
Now,
do you think?
he was a great king with a but in there, though. He did not like to deal with controversy. He couldn't have
Which
hard.
made him look weak.
It did make him look weak. Yes.
That
So
is,
his decision making, there was some. He basically caused the Dance of the Dragons, right? But him as a king overall, it's looked at as one of the most prosperous times in the realm, right? So yes, he made some
he
bad
was definitely
decisions.
a nice king, but what I hear a lot from people, in my opinion, is that as a king, you kind of have to have people, your enemies, a little scared of you. And I feel like nobody, was scared of him. He was just like so nice. And
Yeah, no, he was definitely he was like a
I mean,
peacer.
do you agree with me or no?
Yeah, he was definitely not looked at as a hardcore ruler like a Maegor, right? Or even the guy who succeeded him, Jaehaerys. Um, but Viserys, Viserys didn't even ride a dragon for the majority of his reign, right? And it's almost like there's a scene where he talks about how, the dragons ultimately let us ride them, that you really have no control. So, the biggest mistake, I don't care what anybody says, the biggest mistake Viserys made is one thing, and that is he did not name Daemon heir to the Iron Throne.
I agree.
And more importantly, he did not make Daemon his hand, right? His assistant. Who did
I
he
never
have?
understood that. Does the book say anything of why that never
Well,
happened?
Otto Hightower served Viserys and then two previous kings. So Otto Hightower is just kind of your go-to hand to the king. But at the same time, Otto had his own ambitions, right? Daemon and Otto hated each other. And, you know, it pushed a wedge between Viserys and Daemon to where it made Daemon do some crazy stuff, right? Daemon, I'm positive of one thing. Daemon wanted one thing in this world, and that was his brother's acceptance and his brother
I
Viserys's
agree.
love, essentially, right? He did a lot of things, especially in season one and in the book, where he was like a toddler doing things to try to get attention,
He didn't feel like he belonged.
right? But Daemon was totally fit to rule, would have done a better job than Rhaenyra.
I
He
agree.
would have been one of the better kings. So
I totally
you
agree.
want to delete the whole Dance of the Dragons, you make Daemon the heir to the Iron Throne, and there's probably not much story to talk about.
I agree. And who do you think ruined more things, Alicent or Rhaenyra?
Rhaenyra, by far. Rhaenyra made some really dumb decisions, and it's interesting because book Rhaenyra and show Rhaenyra are pretty different, right? In the show, one thing that I don't like and I don't understand why they did this, but they made Rhaenyra kind of look like this unsure, confused, weak, timid, very careful, ruler. And, in the book, she was not like that, right? Now, in the book and in the show, she's not some deranged, insane person, right? Up until kind of the end. But Rhaenyra made some choices that ultimately just blew up in her face. She did some things that you're like, what? Why are you doing that? Right?
I agree. Going back to the dragons, do you think they really love their riders, or do you think that it's all about control?
Oh, no. They would have to love their writers. Think about this. A lot of people don't stop to think about this one crazy fact that I've made, I don't know, 5 or 6 videos on. Dragons, when they're riderless, generally get along with each other. They go about their day, they
That's a
handle
good
their
point.
stuff, right? But they're not enemies. Whereas you get a rider on a dragon, right? Like, for example, Melees and Vagar rode together for 9 years with Daemon's parents, right? They were both women, right? Melees is a girl, Vagar's a girl, but they rode together every day for 9 years, right? So they were bonded with each other. They were close. What happens years down the road? Vagar ends up killing Melees. A lot of people don't know that. But the truth is, the
Good thing to
dragons,
know.
without the riders, I'm sure there's still conflicts and issues, right? The cannibal eats dragons. But overall, dragons without riders, I don't think they really mess with each other much. I don't. It's the riders that get these dragons that do stupid stuff.
I never thought about that.
Think about it. Why would Vagar and Aemon, or excuse me, why would Caraxes and Vagar choose to do battle above the God's Eye knowing they're going to kill each other, right? It was for the riders. So the riders have a lot of control. Although there were some scenes this season to where you did see some dragons sometimes being not obedient in the way that you would think, right? When Caraxes figured out Sheep Stealer was in the mountains with Daemon's daughter Rhaena,
Yeah, I remember that.
he wouldn't listen, right? So, but look back to Sunfire and Aegon.
I was just about to say that.
Both crippled, both broken. Sunfire finds Aegon at like the best possible time, and Aegon says Dracarys, right? And boom, without a second thought. So the dragons definitely have some love towards the riders.
It's so cute. I love that. Was the dance worth it for anyone who fought it, in your opinion?
No, nobody ends up winning. It's a lose-lose situation. It basically started the domino to extinct dragons up until Game of Thrones when Daenerys gets the 3 eggs. But nobody really wins at the end of the day. It doesn't. And that's why, I always loved the book Fire and Blood, because I got this book in 2018 when it came out. And the best part about Fire and Blood, there is like really no good guy to root for, right? The show did this green versus black things, right? But if you read the book Fire and Blood, which I've read many times, you almost feel like it's like who's lesser of a bad guy. You know what I mean? Whereas most movies and TV shows have clearly defined bad guys, but you can look at every one of these characters, these dragons, and be like, well, they're a bad guy. Well, but now they're like that because of this. So nobody wins in the Dance of the Dragons, except us as the audience that gets to watch.
Yeah. The Targaryens, are they the villains or the heroes?
Oh, they're the villains by far. They were the only family that made it out of Old Valyria alive. So keep in mind, before the Targaryens and before Aegon's conquest, they came to Westeros, and they were a pretty average family in Valyria. There were many other, dragon families back then, right? But they had, people that could see the future and prophecies. They got told to leave Valyria before what's called the Doom happened, right? Which is like an extinction event. But people have been hating the Targaryens since Aegon the Conquest. The only reason probably people really show any respect or loyalty or admiration is because the Targaryens have dragons, right? And it's like, if you're the only person that has a nuclear bomb against people that have 9mm pistols, like, what are you going to do? They had no competition. Think about it. The Dance of the Dragon is the best example. The Targaryens ultimately beat themselves. Had the Targaryens been a tight family like they were in previous generations, nobody could touch them, right? Which, think about it, that brings up another point. That's why the whole incest, marry your brother and sister thing took place, because they didn't want anybody else to have dragon blood, right? They didn't want you to get married to the daughter of, a high lord. You have a kid, and all of a sudden, you have a half Targaryen blood person that now can claim a dragon for another house. So that is kind of weird, obviously, but that's part of the Targaryens, and it makes sense. They didn't want anybody to steal their dragons.
Okay, and that goes to that weird kiss that Amon gave to his
Yeah.
mom. Why do you think that happened? Like, what do you think he was thinking?
The only thing I
That
can
was
think
gross.
with that scene is that the showrunners wanted to show the audience just how bad Harrenhal is for Targaryens. Because if you remember, Daemon was in Harrenhal as well, and he had, a pretty vivid dream about his mom, right? So there's something with Targaryen men and Harrenhal, the huge black castle, and those type of thoughts and things that happen. Um, but the Aemond and Alicent thing, which that actually happened in King's Landing, I take that. Well, there was two scenes, right? There's the real kiss that happened in King's Landing. Alicent tells Aemon to go to Harrenhal, and then very late in the season, right? Aemon has kind of a interesting dream about his mom, but that didn't actually happen. So I don't know. That's the only logical thing I can think is to highlight just how bad Harrenhal and Alice Rivers is for the men, and that Harrenhal is a cursed place, as every previous king and family that ruled Harrenhal died and had ultimately horrible lives, and nobody could successfully keep Harrenhal because what started it? Aegon's conquest, right? The day Harren the Black finished Harrenhal, the day Aegon came, right, and melted down the castle, right, and it just never recovered. So, it's pretty clearly stated Harrenhal is a cursed castle
Yeah.
where crazy things happen.
And for season 4, what are truly your expectations? What do you want it to happen? Something in the book that you're like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't remove that from the
Well,
TV show.
we only have 23 months left until we get to figure that out. But supposedly this is going to be the last season. There's not going to be a fifth or sixth
Oh,
season.
really?
So they are going to have to cram in a lot of stuff. I really hope that they make this. It's probably going to be 8 episodes, but it would be awesome if they did make it 10, because they have to jam a lot of stuff if they do 8 episodes. And so, I'm hoping that from here on out they try to follow the book, right? Because the book's ending is the ending that inspired the whole show. And so, I think there was, a lot of criticism for season 3, and I hope that the writers can listen to the fans a little bit and say, okay, we're going to kind of veer back towards Fire and Blood a little bit more. But honestly, who knows? I would not be surprised. I hope that they stick to the book, but I would not be surprised if they completely change, the God's Eye battle, which is the battle of the whole book, and who knows? Maybe they let certain people live. Maybe certain dragons don't die. I really don't know what to expect, but I will not be surprised if they completely deviate from the book. That would not, I hope that doesn't happen, but I won't be surprised if that happens.
Another thing I heard too is that the book, the first part of the book, is not shown at all in the TV show. And a lot of people
No,
say
not at
they
all.
should do something with that part of the book and make another TV show. Do you agree with that?
I think in that book, Fire and Blood, you could probably make 8 to 10 different series or movies. Half of that book, really maybe even 2/3 of Fire and Blood is before House of the Dragon, right? Before Viserys, before Daemon. But the cool thing is, supposedly next year, there's going to be a movie about Aegon the Conqueror. And it's not going to be done by HBO, and it's not a series, it's a movie. So I am really, really looking forward to that. That's going to obviously have Balerion the Black Dread, Meraxes, which is a dragon that was dead by the time House of the Dragon started, a younger Vagar. But there are some epic, epic battles and things that happen in Fire and Blood before any mention of Viserys and Daemon comes. And you could do, like I said, you could do a movie or a show on Maegor's rule, Jaehaerys, Aegon, You could do a TV show about either of the sisters, right? Aegon's sisters. You could do a show on Dorne, right? During the conquest. Because remember, Dorne is the only kingdom that the Targaryens could not take, right? And so years down the road, Dorne does end up being an alliance with the Targaryens, but it's a political marriage alliance. The only place the Targaryens could not use their dragons and just take it over with sheer willpower is Dorne. So hopefully some other networks and companies, that'd be so cool because there's so many different series and movies you could do from that book.
Cool. Yeah. We will leave the link for the book for whoever wants to buy. We highly recommend.
Yeah. Read the book. Seriously. It'd take you a couple days, a couple weeks. Just seriously read the book. And then the other cool thing too, when you read the book, there will be stuff from Game of Thrones that you're like, oh, I know what that means, right? If you've seen Game of Thrones. But my advice is, of course, read Fire and Blood. But if you like this world, read all the Game of Thrones books too. You know, you understand it at a different level. And, you know, if you read the Game of Thrones books, right, there's many of them. You might read the book and be like, what the heck? Why did the show do this? So they all deviate from the book in some sense. But overall, I'm very thankful House of the Dragon Season 3 came out. Was there some stuff that I didn't like and I was questioning? Yes, of course. But overall, I'm very happy the show exists. And I enjoyed Season 3 a lot.
And my last question, what is your favorite person in a TV show?
Seasons 1 and 2, without question, Daemon.
Yes.
How can you not like? He's the show.
Yeah.
But Season 3, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, Season 3, it's Aegon. As crazy as that sound, you watch Seasons 1 and 2, and then you're like, you're gonna start liking this guy in Season 3. You're like, this guy's a drunk, doesn't want to be a king. What? No
Doesn't
way.
take anything serious.
You get to the end of Season 3 and you're like,
wow,
gosh, dang it, I'm rooting for Aegon. Like, how's that even possible? So Aegon would be my answer for Season 3. Daemon for Seasons 1 and 2.
Awesome. Well, let us know in the comments what you guys think. What you guys agree, what you guys don't agree. We would love to chat.
Check out all my House of the Dragon videos. I narrate those. I put those videos together. I have a video for almost every conceivable scenario in House of the Dragon. So if you want to understand House of the Dragon better, go watch my videos. You can actually learn quite a bit.
And if you have any questions about the book, also, feel free to put questions in the comments. Thank you so much for watching us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.